Another meeting between the federal government and ASUU, which lasted more than 5 hours, this week ended again in a deadlock.
Yes, and both parties did not reach a compromise on the strike, which has crippled academic activities in universities nationwide for 4 weeks now. ASUU President Professor Biodun Ogunyemi says there is no end in sight. But the National Association of Nigerian Students appealed to both parties to reach a compromise in the interest of the students.
All right, now the Education Minister, Adamu Adamu, refused to comment on the issue and rushed into his waiting car after the meeting. No date was fixed for further meetings between both parties, and this makes it the third time in 1 month that the federal government and striking university teachers have failed to reach a compromise. Now, although we heard a report that they're supposed to meet again on the 10th,
yeah.
We'll try to authenticate.
Follow that up.
All right, Nigerians being affected one way or the other by the strike embarked on by the Academic Staff Union of Universities spoke with the TVC Breakfast on this matter.
The federal government should consider, if not because of the lecturers, but because of the students. You know, if they're going on strike now, how would they study?
The government have to make arrangements with them, because they have to meet their mandate, because they are working for their rights. And I think that the government have to sit down and make arrangements with them and let them get what they want. We cannot continue on strike like this.
I think the earlier the federal government listen to them and let the children go back to their school. Because even the teachers that are teaching, the lecture children, we don't expect them to do it without getting their necessary what should be their remuneration.
The federal government, their unwillingness to pay some of these demands or give in to some of the demands the ASUU, the union itself are requesting for, and the union itself are also bent on getting them before they go back to work. But who suffers it? The students, Nigerian students suffer it.
If the government did not pay the teachers or the lecturers or the people that are supposed to pay the salaries to, the government will not take them serious, because if school just start like this and students are coming and they are not paying teachers, they will not be happy, because they also have children to cater for.
Education industry needs to be overhauled. You understand? Education industry needs to be overhauled. You understand? How long are we going to continue with this back and forth system? ASUU on strike, tomorrow they call us strike, and you look at it that they still come back to the same demand, the same point, then that means we are not moving forward.
Their demands ought to be met if the federal government has the paramount interest of the students at heart. They should be able to meet the demand of ASUU.
They have to come to a consensus or a common ground with each other. So at the end of the day, this thing won't keep repeating itself, because it's affecting me and it's affecting other students.
When you hear Nigerians speak their minds on some of these things, it's quite interesting. And we have always said what they're asking is not too much, one way or the other.
Yes, indeed. Well, with us in the studio is to discuss the lingering ASUU strike is former chairman, ASUU Unilag, that's University of Lagos, Dr. Laja Udukoya. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
You listened to the respondents there. Some of them actually saying, look, there's a need. Well, NANS, the education, the student body, you know, has already said, look, ASUU, FG, can you please reach a compromise so that we can get back to the classroom? But are you concerned that there is the likely possibility that, you know, ASUU will begin to lose the sympathy of not only students, but their parents and their guardians if this continues?
Thank you very much. Let me commend the overwhelming support even from that survey from Nigerians. It's clear and it's becoming very obvious that Nigerians are beginning to understand the issues. I want to think NANS themselves as a body actually should understand the issue more than above anybody. In the 80s, we were students. We had the NANS Charter of Demand, and part of it is a strong opposition to commercialization of education, a strong advocacy for a strong, vibrant university system, globally competitive, and it was then. You see a lot of expatriate in our university, go around now, you don't see them again. So if anybody, NANS, if they know what is good for them, will not even be talking about ASUU should just, this thing. We have gotten to a stage that we must fix this problem. Not, as a PhD holder, Nigerian lecturers can lecture anywhere in the world. It's the future of these students. So it is what NANS should be doing that we are doing. And it's unfortunate that in our teens, in our 20s, early 20s, we're busy struggling for the university system. And I'm over 50 now, I'm 54. Yet, we are still in the trenches. So what we were doing, they should be doing now. But unfortunately, they've left it. NANS have become highly politicized. NANS have become, so to say, a government now, instead of union we used to.
Yeah, has ASUU not become highly politicized?
ASUU has never been highly politicized, and you can put the facts on the table and let's discuss it. When you say, for example, when I say NANS have been highly politicized, okay, what's the business of NANS giving people awards? Just last week, NANS gave awards to Bukola Saraki. What's their business?
Yeah, but if NANS feels that
I don't have a problem, but I'm saying that is not the mandate of NANS.
Well-being.
That's not the mandate of NANS. And what has Saraki, and of course that's not our business anyway, what has it done to Nigerian education? For example, this ASUU strike was the National Assembly, the Senate particularly, under Saraki, not part of the negotiation. What has been done after that? So
all right, let's bring this to the main issue on ground. A report credited to the national president of ASUU saying that workers and lecturers should prepare for a long strike or long industrial action, as the case may be, when negotiation is still ongoing. There was a negotiation just a day or two ago, and then there was a deadlock. From the report we also got, there's supposed to be another meeting again on Monday the 10th. So if negotiations are ongoing and then a statement comes from a party to the negotiation saying prepare for a long strike, does it mean that they're not ready to,
cede ground? The truth is that we are not negotiating. Don't forget, this is a 2009 agreement. It has led to a strike. There was a memorandum of understanding. After that, there was just last year, there was a memorandum of action. For the first time, we move forward. We are not just understanding ourselves. These are actionable things. So we are not negotiating. We are just on the table to ensure, these are the things on the ground. We have agreed on all this. What are you doing? So the statement of the president is indicative of the fact that government has not changed its stand. You see, we have their templates. The way it starts, you can go back and look at it. The first is denial. No, and things like that. They are being politically motivated, this and things like that. Of course, that was equally said when this same government was in opposition. When that failed to work, the next stage is where we are. Keep them talking. So what the president has just said is that, there has not been any seriousness as to any of the issues. We've met about 3, 4, or 5 times, and we're still going to meet. ASUU is not afraid of meeting. We'll continue meeting. But what he has just said is that from what we have experienced, these guys are not serious. It's not to say that ASUU is not ready to. No, but it's just tactically telling people that nothing has happened.
So now, if ASUU has a mindset that government is not serious,
it's not about having the mindset.
Okay.
It is based on what has happened in those interactions.
What you have
observed. And you can ask, I can take some of the issues
and you just said that no negotiations have happened. But meanwhile, you have had meetings with the government. This is a third or fourth one now
between unions
that still has not gone anywhere.
You understand? Yeah. I'm saying we have an agreement on ground. We are not negotiating.
Okay.
It is. So it's just what do you do to fulfill this agreement? That is not in labor partners.
And the federal government has said, for now, we cannot afford to meet ASUU's demands.
That's
it's like government is already coming out.
That's saying government has said we have sentenced the Nigerian university system to permanent underdevelopment. And that's not acceptable to us because we work in the system. You understand? And people like you, everybody all over will say the Nigerian university, the students are not this and things like that. Of course, there are over-exaggeration about that. It comes back to us. You've pledged based on a need assessment that was done by the government itself. 1.3 trillion. way back 2013, the Jonathan presidency released 200 billion. Yeah. And after that, 20 billion. Nothing has been done. See, 2013 today, and you are telling us you cannot meet this demand. Is that this thing? Then you are owing lecturer and allowances, not bonus. Since 2009, you have not paid. You are saying you can't pay. And what are we talking about, please?
All right, let's bring in the coordinator, Education Rights Campaign, Hassan Taiwo, joining us on phone. Hassan, it's good to have you join us right now. I know you've been following this development between ASUU and the federal government and even the students themselves. Now, as someone who has been campaigning for the rights of education and all of that, how concerned are you that the university system, we also know that the polytechnic system might be joining the strike in less than a week from now. How concerned are you that the education system or standards are degenerating?
Well, I'm deeply concerned, especially because my organization has been part and parcel of this struggle over the past 1 decade. And the issues appears to be the same all the time we go out on strike or protest. Every succeeding government have always displayed contempt towards the demands of academic staff and other unions for proper funding of education. And the current administration has behaved exactly true to type, which is why for my organization, we have always been making the point that every Catholic government that we have had in Nigeria would never fund education appropriately because it does not correspond to the desires of the Catholic system for Nigeria. And that is what we are seeing with the behavior and attitude of the Buhari administration. The issues are very clear. The Academic Staff Union of University is demanding that for its members to be able to do their job, the university system must be appropriately funded so that students can be able to acquire quality education. Why should that be too difficult for a responsible government, to address? Under the Jonathan administration, these issues, hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
We're with you.
These issues came up. The Academic Staff Union was able to compel the federal government to conduct a visitation into the universities. And the panel came out with shocking revelations to show that we don't have universities in Nigeria. And you would have expected that a responsible government would not need any further prodding before they would do anything. Can you believe that since that time, 2013, the government has not been able to do anything concrete to address any of those issues? And these issues are degenerating every day. Don't forget, Nigeria's population is increasing exponentially every year. This means that at every point in time, we are having an army of young people who require public education. If the universities are not being expanded, are not being provisioned with adequate facilities, then Nigeria would only continue to have on its hands a ticking time bomb. And that is why the strike of us is not just a strike for better funding of education. It's a strike to equally salvage this country. And all parents and students must of necessity support the union to compel this government to do what is right.
Hassan Taiwo, let me remain with you. There are observers who have actually called what the ASUU strikes. They've actually referred to it as intellectual terrorism. That you cannot absolve ASUU or the non-academic staff union of not having a role in the rot that we find or see in the in
education system.
Yeah, in our education system, especially in the ivory towers.
Well, I'm sorry to say that that opinion is completely misplaced. That's not to say that one or two academic staff could be bad eggs, but as a union, ASUU has helped to defend the public university system up to this stage. In fact, for anybody who wants to be sincere, let's just look back over the past 20 years and imagine that there is no ASUU fighting on an annual basis. What would have become, how would the education system look like today? Look at the public secondary schools and primary schools. Look at how they have destroyed them. If ASUU was not fighting, the universities would have been completely flattened. So that the Nigerians today, the working people in Nigeria, need to come around ASUU, because the reality is that ASUU alone cannot win this struggle if it does not have the support of the critical mass of Nigerians. Because ultimately this issue boils down to the future of Nigerian students.
Now, Hassan, a lot of education analysts have had picked issue or picked a fault with the federal government establishing new universities in the past few years in parts of the country without necessarily investing in them and building them to the level where they can stand to compete, even with the ones in Nigeria, not to talk about the ones in other parts of Africa or even the world. What's your take on this?
Yes, I'm equally worried about the space of establishment of universities nowadays without the intention to actually fund them. Jonathan did that at the tail end of his administration, and we have seen an attempt by the current administration to equally do the same. But first and foremost, our desire is to have more universities, more public standard quality universities, polytechnics across the country, because you have an exploding population of young people require university education. But we are equally completely opposed to the practice of establishing universities simply for the purpose of politics, of gaining the votes of a particular region, without the intention to ensure that these are funded to actually provide the kind of education that we require. And that is what the ruling elite are doing at the moment. Don't also forget that at the secondary and primary school levels, the state governments across the federation, they often claim that they are implementing free education, but without the appropriate provision to ensure that there is quality education at these levels. So all of these situations are equally imposed on the academic staff union and organizations like ourselves. The need to actually be very concrete when we put our demands forward, so that for ASUU, for ERS, or any other groups in Nigeria today, we don't just demand that education be properly funded or more universities should be provided. We equally insist that there must be provision with the appropriate facilities to ensure that quality education is provided. We insist that budget allocation to the education sector should be increased, because what we see is that the government does not want to make a clear commitment to providing quality education.
All right.
Instead, it wants to be given tokens that can, at different points in time, doing the people that they are doing what is right. But it all boils down to one thing. We don't have a government that is actually interested. If it does anything at all, it's only because it is being forced. And that is why, for the working people, we need to fight for a complete transformation.
Hassan Taiwo, thank you very much. As Coordinator, Education Rights Campaign. Thank you for your contribution this morning. In the meantime, President Buhari has actually, accepted the fact that ASUU's demands are right. But then again, the real challenge seems to be, how do we get to a point where, both sides get to agree? What the government has been saying is ASUU really needs to come up with, other alternative sources of funding the universities. The education bond, for example, is what they have put forward and all of that. But all of those solutions coming from the side of the federal government don't seem to be, to go down well with the ASUU.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's one thing to admit, just like the minister did even during the other strike, that yeah, they are wrong and things like that. Yeah, the President Buhari have agreed, but it's easy for the government to find money to fund other part of the economy of the state. They are funding the election and things like that. And you see, Education is a public good for goodness sake. It's so sad that a country in the kind of problem we have is toying with education.
Yeah, we all know, we know that. But the real issue here is, what are the solutions? You know, are you even considering what the federal government is saying as per education bond, for example, or even the education bank and other solutions that they're putting forward?
The issue of education bond, you understand? We've tried it here. There was an education bank in student loan, this thing. Why did it fail? Then go to the US and Canada where this is done. This thing puts students in perpetual bondage. In the US, a lot of students, there are people that commit suicide because they can't even pay. It's more complex than what you think. And for goodness sake, what does it cost to fund education? And even this wrong impression is even being given, as if students don't pay. We don't even presently enjoy free education in Nigeria. Yeah, students are not paying tuition. Is that the only component of education? When Jacondi or Lagos State, when they were doing free education, up to pencil, up to uniform, students pay for every other thing, books and things like that. So who says students are not even paying in Nigeria? So what you are saying is that increase the bond.
They are paying, including they are paying.
The only thing that is not being paid.
They are paying for handouts too, which we hear that lecturers actually.
That's not from government. And of course, I can tell you, those are aberrations. In University of Lagos, where I am, nobody buy a handout. If you are caught, you are gone. You can't even beyond the handout. Books. If you have a book, take it to the bookshop. You don't get to sell it. Yeah, like Azan rightly said, they are just like every human society. There are people that will actually go again. We have our bad eggs, and we have mechanisms in place that we use to deal with them. So those are not the issues.
Okay.
So to say that Nigerian students are not paying is equally a lie. They are not paying tuition, and that is just maybe less than 5% component of what it entails to even educate a student. They pay for accommodation, they pay for their books. There are no books in the library. There are no regents. They source all these things. So, and you are saying, let's increase this burden. And we say, no. It is only the greed of our ruling elite that need to be curbed. Since we have this crisis, have Nigeria not been shouting the cost of governance is too high? That the legislators should bring down this thing, reduce the number of anger rounds? What have been done? These are the issues.
All right. There was the controversy of the no work, no pay, and the minister,
which has been withdrawn.
Although it has been technically withdrawn.
Technically,
exactly. But it is still being looked at because the legal luminary Femi Falana came to fault the government at even saying that it is even illegal to talk about no work, no pay. And the minister came out to fault Falana for saying that in the first place. So where does that stand, really?
With due respect to the Minister of Labour does not seem to know what it entails to be a Minister of Labour. The Minister of Labour, though a politician, a member of the administration, is an arbitrator. He's supposed to mediate between two antagonistic parties. And when the Minister of Labour starts taking positions that are even violating and contrary to international labor convention, which says strike action is a right of labor. You can withdraw your destiny, and to say you will not be paid is that. But we are not bothered as ASUU. We've gone through this route before. Like I said, we have their templates. Within 2 days or so, they withdrew it, and he came back to say that's their problem. Whatever they want to do, we are fighting. We are on this struggle because of commitments. We are on this because, for goodness sake, sometimes too because of our enlightened self-interest, and in the sense that if there is no university system, there won't be lecturers. We don't want to be like some other organizations that are only concerned about bread and butter. And ultimately, the organization are no longer there, and they handed off this thing. So, if the university system is not there, we won't be there as lecturers. So, first and foremost, it's our primary constituency. And it's our duty to struggle for it, to make sure the right things are done.
So how do you now balance between the use of force for dialogue and the use of force for reward? How do you balance the use of force for dialogue and the use of force
Strike is a peaceful
for reward, which you know, some observers of ASUU, you know, I mean, you have used the same system over and over again, just like you said, and it seems not to have worked. And people are saying, is it possible for ASUU to look for more creative ways?
Let them suggest.
You know, so that the education sector, the universities, you know, the universities don't suffer.
You see, the sad thing about, and that seems to be general about this country, it is the oppressed that is always being asked to make sacrifice.
Okay.
Is it not easier to say, government, why don't you enter into an agreement? Why don't you do the needful? People have said, I should do something else. And maybe like going to pray, like we have always been praying for all our problems without solutions. Go to traditional rulers. What have they done even when this thing? So the last resort for any worker is to say, this condition is not convenient for me, I'm withdrawing my destiny. So it is for the government. You have an agreement. And until we start insisting on that, that is the same way they give us promises during election. No, but nothing is done. And they've taken us for fools for too long.
Okay.
So, but we are open. If people know of any other creative way they keep on saying, it's not for them to say ASUU. Let them tell us those who will embrace it if it's workable.
Okay, we look forward to brighter days, and we're also looking forward to this time the next meeting between ASUU and the federal government.
Hopefully some agreements can be reached.
A result, a positive one. Dr. Laja Odukoya, former chairman, ASUU Unilag, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so much. You guys are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you very much.
I pray you keep it up.
Thank you.
All the best.
Right. We also thank Coordinator, Education Rights Campaign, Hassan Taiwo, who joined us earlier on.